Good afternoon and welcome to the Oregon Employment Department's monthly media briefing. We are going to start in another couple of minutes to give everybody a chance to join. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Rebecca Gibson King. I am the Communications Director for the Employment Department. Today's speakers are Employment Economist Gail Krumenauer and Oregon Employment Department Director David Gerstenfeld. Paid Leave Oregon Director Karen Madden-Hummelbaugh will be available to answer questions after the opening remarks. A couple of quick notes. This meeting is being recorded and we will post the recording on our website after the media briefing. We will take questions after opening remarks. And if you have any technical difficulties or are otherwise unable to ask your question, please send us an email at communications@employ.oregon.gov and we will be happy to assist you. I will now turn it over to State Employment Economist Gail Krumenauer. Go ahead, Gail.
Thanks, Rebecca, and thank you to everybody for joining us this afternoon. Yesterday, the Employment Department released the latest jobs numbers and unemployment rate for Oregon. Oregon employers added 1,700 jobs to non-farm payrolls in October. A few sectors had large job gains over the month. Private healthcare and social assistance added 2,400 jobs. We saw a gain of 1,700 jobs in government, and financial activities grew by 1,200 jobs in October. There were also a few sectors that had notable job losses. Professional and business services lost 2,400 jobs over the month. Manufacturing employment declined by 1,200 jobs, and we saw a loss of 1,000 jobs in transportation, warehousing, and utilities. Revised data from the past several months showed job growth in Oregon was slightly stronger over the past year than originally reported. Oregon employers added 22,700 jobs over the past year. That's a gain of 1.1%. Now, although growth has been slightly stronger over the past year, employment trends still look much the same over the past year as what we've been discussing over the last several months. Private healthcare and social assistance still accounts for the majority of job gains over the past year. The sector added 16,900 jobs, which was a gain of almost 6%. We saw that retail trade still had the largest job loss over the past year. It was down by 3,700 jobs, or 1.8%. Oregon's unemployment rate was unchanged at 4% in October. Oregon's unemployment rate has been stable. It's been holding between 4% and 4.2% for the past 13 months. And the state's labor force participation rate has been stable as well at 63% for 6 consecutive months. With that, I will pass it to Director David Gerstenfeld for more comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail, and good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to start with a brief update on our customer service levels before announcing the unemployment insurance tax rate and the paid leave Oregon contribution rate for 2025. In unemployment insurance, we've made it a priority to resolve issues that are holding up benefit payments within 3 weeks. Currently, there's about 6,000 of these hold pay issues in total. This number is up a little over the past few weeks due to the increase we experience each year of people seeking unemployment benefits in the late fall through the early winter. We're still well under the number of hold pays that we had earlier in the year, though. And importantly, we're encouraged to see that the percentage of hold pay issues that are 3 weeks old or less has continued to inch up in recent weeks and is currently at 79%. That's just shy of our 80% target, and we're still making progress even as we enter the busy season for unemployment insurance claims. For Paid Leave Oregon, we continue to reduce customer wait times for benefit payments. Currently, the number of open claims that are older than 6 weeks is down more than 95% since May 1st and has held steady since late August. Our current average time from application to decision is about 22 days. This means we're still on the right track and our customers are much less likely to experience particularly long waits for payments. And with that, I'm going to move on to the unemployment insurance tax rate and the Paid Leave Oregon contribution rate for 2025. We began mailing employers their annual notices today and have posted individual rate information to their Francis Online accounts. Employers pay a payroll tax which goes into the Oregon Unemployment Insurance Trust Fund, which in turn pays for the unemployment benefits Oregon workers receive when they're out of work through no fault of their own. For 2025, Oregon will remain in Unemployment Insurance Tax Schedule 3. For all subject employers in 2025, unemployment insurance taxes will apply to the first $54,300 an employee earns, up a little bit from 2024's $52,800. For new employers, the unemployment insurance payroll tax rate remains at 2.4% for 2025. For employers that have more than 12 months of experience, we're returning to the standard rules to calculate each employer's experience rating. That's part of the formula used to calculate each employer's individual unemployment insurance tax rate. And federal law requires states to use these experience ratings, essentially looking at how much a business's employees access unemployment insurance benefits over time. In 2021, the legislature passed House Bill 3389 to temporarily freeze these employer experience ratings at 2020 levels. This was done to help support Oregon businesses that were negatively affected during the pandemic, and it was part of the estimated $2.4 billion in UI tax savings through 2029 that House Bill 3389 is providing to Oregon employers. Oregon's self-balancing unemployment insurance trust fund is one of the healthiest in the country, which means employer tax rates remain lower when there are strains on the unemployment insurance system. For instance, we didn't have to raise taxes or borrow money during the pandemic like many states did. And Oregon's unemployment insurance trust fund also earns interest, more than $126 million in 2023 and about $81 million so far in 2024. This further reduces the cost for businesses. All of this means that Oregon's unemployment insurance trust fund is solvent and is ready for whenever the next recession comes. The paid leave Oregon contribution rate for 2025 will also remain the same as it was in 2024, 1% of an employee's wages. This will apply to the first $176,100 in wages. This is the Social Security taxable maximum wage amount for 2025. Both employers and employees contribute to the Paid Leave Oregon Trust Fund, which in turn pays for paid leave benefits for Oregon workers and assistance grants to small businesses. Employees pay 60% of the contribution rate, and most employers pay 40%. Through Francis Online, employers are able to send us timely, accurate wage reports to help us operate the unemployment insurance and the Paid Leave Oregon programs effectively and efficiently. We want to thank Oregon businesses for all that they do to promote economic stability in Oregon, even during challenging times. We know employers have faced significant challenges in the past several years, yet they've continued to focus on job growth, contributing to both our economy and our robust workforce, and we're proud to partner with them. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to Rebecca Gibson King for the question and answer part of the briefing.
Thank you, David. We're going to now open the lines to members of the media to ask questions. If you're joining us by phone, please make sure to hit *6 to unmute yourself. And as a courtesy, please limit yourself to one question and one follow-up question. And as always, if you don't get your question answered today, please email us at communications@employ.oregon.gov. And I'm going to go see if we have any hands raised. First up is Kyra Buckley with OPB. Go ahead, Kyra. We're still not hearing you. I don't know, do you want to type your question into the chat?
Hello, can you hear me?
There we go. Now we can.
Well, I was hooked into the fancy equipment, but I will just be on the unfancy equipment to chat. Thanks so much for taking my question and for your patience. Always appreciated. David, I want to start with you. Just want to get an update. We've talked about Francis Online and the transition. We do not know what will come in the coming months, but I'm wondering if you are confident if we were to see a surge in people needing unemployment benefits now that you've settled into using Francis, if you'd be able to handle that surge better than when 2020 hit.
Sure, I think we're certainly on that path. I think that the system helps more people be able to navigate themselves than our old legacy systems did. And what we're seeing now is that we're continuing to make refinements to the system. We're continuing to get better at making those refinements more quickly. So it will still be a period of time as we continue to get better at doing that and continue to make the system work even more efficiently. But if we did have to make big changes to the program, if we did have to have a big increase in the number of people filing claims, I think it is easier for us to make system adjustments. And the current system is helping more people file completely on their own than we ever saw in the old system. We've been at about 97% of people are filing their unemployment claims online, unassisted through Francis Online, which is higher than we ever saw in the legacy systems. And that certainly would be key to helping if we saw a sudden increase. So I think a tentative yes for now. And as we continue to refine the system and get more proficient at updating it, that will just increase even more.
I always feel like I should then knock on wood, and may that not be needed.
Yes.
Well, thank you. And Karen, I'm now going to move to you. I also kind of a follow-up on a topic that you and I have talked about in the past and you've spoken with the press about, and that's the concern around fraudulent claims and specifically people, regular Oregonians who maybe have their identity stolen and a fraudulent application made. And that was a concern when the program started. And now that we are more settled in, I'm wondering if we could just get an update about how that's going to fight the, be able to identify those claims and the people that reach out to you if that are legitimate applicants, how they're able to get that cleared up.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Obviously, fraud's a concern for any government-run program, and so we all have to be very diligent with making sure we use all of the tools in our toolbox. And I know we don't talk about those specifically, but we do have good teams in place that are now up to speed and up to date. There was a point in time where they were behind in checking with folks and getting those real people through, and it's been many months now that they've been able to work through those literally on a daily basis, whoever might be stuck that really needs those benefits. So we're feeling really good about how we're fighting fraud and how we're protecting people's identities, and then also just how we're responding to those.
Thanks for taking my questions.
Yeah, and I might just add on that, Kyra, because it's something that spans not just Karen's program, but unemployment insurance too. And Karen and Lindsay coordinate really closely and their teams do. Unfortunately, I think that risk of fraud and identity theft is just an ongoing permanent part of what it means to run these programs. And that's what other states are seeing in other types of programs. It's something that we take real seriously and that we've been pretty successful at, but certainly requires us to be constantly adjusting what we're doing as those fraud schemes constantly shift. So I think that's something we'll be dealing with for the foreseeable future.
All right, next up is Mike Rogaway. Go ahead, Mike.
Good. Okay, a couple of quick questions for David, Francis specific again. David, I'd heard some concern that if a claim is denied and you're waiting for adjudication when you're filing your claim, that you're supposed to keep filing while things get worked out. That Francis wasn't allowing that. Is that right, or does Francis allow that?
No, if someone, for instance, has an issue that needs to be adjudicated, or even if it's been adjudicated and, for instance, we tell the person that they're not eligible and they wish to challenge that decision by appealing it, they can continue to claim additional weeks of benefits. I will give a little asterisk there. There are a lot of different types of scenarios that people can run into. So there may have been some very narrow situations where people were having challenges. As those have come up, we've addressed them. And I think that all of those have been addressed at this time.
Great. And then one quick follow-up. Have you had any issues with the Francis mobile interface? And heard some concern that people hadn't seen been able to see when they're filing mobilely. Mobilely may not be a word. When they're filing via the mobile interface on their phones, that they hadn't been able to see all the steps they're required to complete. Is there anything to that?
Not that we know of, and we've looked at that. It is a dynamic mobile application. So for paid leave and for unemployment insurance and for the tax filing side also, it will look different on a mobile device, and it will look different depending on what type of mobile device you have and what orientation you have the screen. But it's all the same information. It's really just how it's organized on the screen where it gets rearranged to be easier to read and easier to navigate when you're having to scroll on a smaller screen.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Mike. Next up is Ashley Koch. Go ahead, Ashley.
Hi, it's Ashley Koch from KGW. Question for David. You had touched on this briefly, but if you could get a little bit more into it, what's behind still? It sounds like you're not quite meeting that benchmark for the wait time for benefits. So just at this point in time, what's still holding it up and what solutions are in place? What has helped make progress in the meantime?
Sure, I'll start with the what helped make progress, because we really have made a lot of progress. Whenever you roll out a major new technology system, there's always a learning curve for our employees to use the system, for our employees to make adjustments to it, and for the tens of thousands of people that we have every week that are using it. So everybody's learning all at once. We've really gotten through that learning curve, and we've made a lot of adjustments. I talked about how we're seeing more people use Francis Online themselves to file claims than we ever saw with the legacy systems. We also went into this understaffed, and we talked about how the fact that we didn't get additional funding that we had hoped for until June of this year, which was after that go live. We hired people, we got them trained. That takes time for people to build proficiency, but certainly getting those additional dedicated staff people online and trained has been really important. And importantly, we're also really focusing on the root causes of what's causing people challenges. And it's really focusing on those issues that are holding up payments. And I mentioned that I think the number you're talking to, we're right at about our goal, missing it by just a little bit. I think a lot of that is us still working through and fine-tuning the system and finding what wording might be confusing for people, where there are processes that we can continue to make adjustments to. We're continuing to do that, and we'll always be looking for those friction points. And those new employees that we hired are also still gaining proficiency using the new system. The unemployment insurance program, even with the new tools where it's much quicker to train them, it's still a set of complicated programs, and it takes time for people to really get fully proficient to be able to answer all of the different questions that come up and to do that quickly and accurately. So we're continuing to make progress. We're continuing to see that progress even as we're seeing the number of people filing claims go up for the seasonal workload increase that we see this time of year. So we think that we'll be able to maintain or continue to slightly improve our customer service even as the workload goes up, and that as the seasonal workload eases, that the performance will improve even more. We have gotten to the point where we are again outperforming the nation as a whole in terms of how quickly we're getting people their unemployment insurance benefits. That's not our desired endpoint. We want to get to a much better customer service level, but we really have made a lot of progress, and it's something that we're really laser focused on continuing.
Great. And then my next question was just about, with that seasonal increase, I know that call wait times, like phone call wait times, were an issue for a while. Phone lines had to be shut down for a while. If people are calling in now with questions or concerns about their benefits, how are those wait times?
The wait times in paid leave, where we had some challenges, have vastly improved. And Karen and her team did a lot of great work and weren't facing some of the same budgetary challenges that the unemployment administration was. In unemployment insurance, they've improved, but they're frankly still not where we want them to be, and we're really focused on getting them better. That's where we're still really focused on reducing the number of things that cause people to call us. And one of the key things is if people don't hear from us, if their claims aren't being processed quickly enough, if those hold pay issues aren't addressed quickly enough, people understandably call us. So the best way that we have to reduce those call wait times is to keep making progress on getting those issues resolved quickly. And we have seen that be effective. It just will take longer because the number of people claiming and kind of the scale of the program is a little bigger on the unemployment insurance side.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ashley. Next up is Dick Hughes. Go ahead, Dick.
Thank you. This may be a premature question, but I'll ask it anyway. For the director, what might the change in presidential administration mean for the employment department?
That's something that we're looking at really closely, Dick. I do think it's too early to say. A lot of the programs that we do are state specific. So for instance, the paid leave program that Karen oversees is a creature of Oregon state law. We don't think that there will be significant impact there. With unemployment insurance, a lot of it is set by federal statute with some pretty broad parameters for state flexibility. So at this point, we're not aware of any major things. Probably the biggest risk that I see is the ongoing issues for the funding levels of some of the federal programs that states administer. For instance, like unemployment insurance, like the Trade Act that helps people who have lost their job because of the impacts of foreign trade, for a lot of the programs that help people get new jobs, new careers, and training. Those are federal programs that states run, and we don't yet have a final budget for the federal fiscal year that we're in, and the federal elections could have a big impact on what level of funding Oregon and other states receive. So we're watching that very closely.
Thank you.
Did you have a follow-up question, Dick?
Nope, that's it.
Awesome. Okay, well, I don't see any other hands raised, so I'm going to go ahead and bring this briefing to a close. As a reminder, this call was recorded and we will send out the link to all reporters who RSVP'd. We will also post it on the media page at oregon.gov/employee under news and agency info. Thank you to everybody who participated today and for your partnership in keeping Oregonians informed about our important services. Have a lovely weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.